Here we are, guys, the last Assassin's Creed game thus released, excluding the handhelds. Now, if Assassin's Creed Brotherhood is considered 2.5, then this would be considered Assassin's Creed 2.55. But don't get me wrong, I haven't seen many negative reviews for this game, but I haven't seen any glowing reviews for it either. So is this where Ubisoft went too far in exploiting Assassin's Creed? Let's find out. Without spoiling the events of Brotherhood, let's just say Desmond's mind has kinda fallen to pieces. They stick him back in the Animus, and he needs to rebuild his mind by continuing to follow Ezio's memories?
Finish what you started, until your ancestor has nothing left to show you. That is a sync nexus. And when you find it, the Animus can separate Desmond from Ezio and Altair and send you home.
Now you may be thinking that this is some contrived way to get Desmond to go to Ezio for the third time. But here's the thing. It is.
Ezio is attempting to reach the library of Altair. So there are 5 keys you need to snag, and then you're in like Flynn. And that's basically the game. Yeah, kind of a weak plot, but it is made up for with the Altair plotline that is put in as well, which is actually kind of interesting. I do wish they had kept Altair's old voice actor, but I have to admit it was still interesting. There's also a love interest and stuff, so they have some new material, but ultimately, I don't really like the plot of the game. This guy was a pretty cool character, but otherwise, meh. And that really sucks, because Brotherhood had managed to be somewhat interesting, even if the ending was a good cliffhanger. So this is a serious downgrade in my opinion. But hey, in Assassin's Creed 1 and 2, their plots were pretty lackluster, but the gameplay really shined. So what do I have to worry about? Well, let's see how the gameplay has changed. I mean, I'm not explaining the gameplay again, because, I mean, geez, I've already done it 3 times. Alright, the combat is still pretty decent. A lot more of your enemies are advanced enough to the point where they won't die when you counterattack, which is annoying, but I can shrug it off. I always praise the stealth assassinations in the series, and they are still really fun here. And I gotta admit, I still really love pickpocketing people, especially during the escort missions. Yoink, 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 yoink. Ha! Well, that was a very fun mission, Yusuf. This ramp around the town has really taught me the ways of your people, and I quite appreciate it. I look forward to further tours. Oh, jeez, what the? Oh, hey. Ah! And this, kids, is why you shouldn't pickpocket people, because if their AI is advanced enough, they might form an angry mob against you. I gotta go. Okay, new stuff. Well, first, the new hook blade. This is somewhat cool. It allows you to grab ledges from further away, which can make short work of a lot of viewpoint towers. It also allows you to zip line, which is useful from time to time, I guess. It's not used nearly as much as it should have been, but it does give way to the most badass assassination I have ever seen in these games. Another little tweak they've introduced into the series is the addition of sub-weapons. Basically, triangle used to be eagle vision. Now, half a dozen of your weapons from the last game have been given their own separate wheel, and you use these weapons with triangle. Eagle sense is relegated to L3. I have to admit, this would be a good change if I wasn't so used to the other control scheme at this point. So I'll comfortably thinking square uses every weapon. So when I might want to bring out the gun for a faraway kill... Jack! Wait, shit, didn't mean to do that! And since selecting weapons stops time, the other control scheme worked fine on its own. So while I certainly respect them for thinking a bit here, I wish they had kept the controls the same, but no real harm done. Now the parachutes aren't new, they were in Brotherhood, but only if you did all of the Leonardo missions, and they weren't all that useful. Here, it's a lot better. Want me to escape from a fortress without getting detected? No problem, here we go! Last positive change I can think of off the top of my head is that you don't need to renovate tunnels to use them. So once you unlock the tunneling system, you can go anywhere, which I really appreciate. I should have mentioned that in my Brotherhood review, because that was a little inconvenient.
But with all of that said, well, here's the thing. I will give the Revelations developers credit for trying to add new things, but there wasn't much you could add to Brotherhood, and what they did add is either going to be ignored or it's going to detract from the experience.
Bomb making is pointless. I was perfectly happy with my smoke bombs, and this is just overdoing it. Don't get me wrong, it's not complicated. The bomb making isn't hard, but you have to get the ingredients and go to a bomb make. It's just unnecessary. Den defense. Well, if you're expecting me to tear the developers a new one, I'm actually not, because I never encountered it after the mandatory mission in which you have to do it. But it was a pretty bad mission. Basically, it's a slow, awkward version of tower defense. And don't get me wrong, I love tower defense, especially the Bloons games. But this kind of sucks. However, it only has the potential to pop up when you're notorious. And even on the 3 instances when I was notorious, it didn't pop up in the time it took me to lower my notoriety. So the mode doesn't deserve that much flack, but it was stupid. But I have to admit, I'm not so much mad about the minor little additions that slightly take away from the game. I am more annoyed what they have lazily kept out from Brotherhood. Prime example. Oh, actually no, not prime example. I'm saving the prime example to the end for great. The Borgia towers you burn down are still in the game, but there's only about 30% as many as were in Brotherhood. And I don't think they actually block renovating shops. There's actually very little reason to take them down, and it's nowhere near as fun as in Brotherhood. Same thing with the Assassin's Guild. It's back, sure, but I never went above 1 assassin signal, rarely sent them out on contracts, maybe only hired 2 or 3 total assassins in my entire run-through. Again, maybe it's just me, but it's nowhere near as fun. The Leonardo missions are gone. Those I can live without, not because I didn't love them in the last game, which I did, but there are plenty of set pieces within the actual campaign, and a lot of them are actually really, really good. Hell, even the final level is a set piece, and it's actually the first end level in Assassin's Creed history that I really enjoyed. So that isn't a big deal.
I mean, it's not as though they left out the assassination contract. Wait, why would that be in this? You've got to be shitting me. They left out the assassination contracts?
Whenever the last 2 games slowed down too much, there were always assassination missions to go to. Here, slog through it. Even the side missions that do exist, like the den capturing, just aren't that fun. There are so fewer side missions in this game, and very few of the side missions that the developers didn't think that they could get away with skipping over are actually compelling. Of course, with all that said, I am in no way insinuating that the campaign is bad. It's pretty darn good. Like I said, it has quite a few memorable set pieces, and there are a lot of assassinations that are still very fun. There's just nothing to add to that, and that's really jarring. Put it to you this way, the campaign itself is probably the same length as Brotherhood. I would guess it's a bit shorter, but nothing really worth complaining about. But here's the difference. I beat Brotherhood in 17 hours, while I finished Revelations in 10. Without the side quests to distract me, I found this game to be lacking in value. Heck, I've probably put another 10 hours into Brotherhood after the credits rolled, but I'm not likely to pick up this game again. Not to say that a 10-hour campaign is horrible, it's decent, but that's just it. Assassin's Creed 2 and Brotherhood have great value for your money, while Revelations, meh. You'll finish it in 10 hours and be done with it. How much money do you want to spend on that?
However, there are 2 things you guys need to realize. 1, I still had a pretty darn good time with the campaign. It was good. 2, I don't feel I wasted my money on this game. And that's for one simple thing. Say it with me, boys and girls. Multiplayer.
I neglected to explain the multiplayer in the Brotherhood review. Mostly because I couldn't get that much footage of it. So here's how it goes. You and 7 other players are put into an arena filled with about 100 other regular civilians. Everyone gets a contract on each other, so you have to hunt down your target, which is like the assassinations from the single-player game, except you don't know exactly who he is. The only indication you get is if the portrait of your target is highlighted, which signifies that they are in your line of sight or if they're nearby. Also, you aren't dealing with suspicion meters. You're dealing with actual human intelligence. And while all of this is happening, someone is hunting you. And this is some of the best multiplayer I've ever played. I'm dead serious. It's so much fun. But it's this way. I got Revelations back in April of this year at a great sale at GameStop, despite the fact that I hadn't even played Assassin's Creed 2 or picked up Brotherhood. And why? 3 words. $40 off. And I wasn't going to play the single player yet. I didn't want the other 2 games spoiled for me, so I decided to jump into the multiplayer I had heard so much about. And I was hooked. I seriously got all the way to rank 50 without ever touching the single player mode. I love it. Yeah, I hate roof runners, and I wish that they had figured out a way to balance that out, but still, it's epic. So for me, I'm glad I own this game. But here's the snag. In about a month, the multiplayer will become obsolete because the next game in the series is coming out. When I recommend the multiplayer, I can't really recommend this game. It's more of an early recommendation of Assassin's Creed 3. Already it's showing its signs of dying. Most of the time, the only people I can get games with are already at rank 50. And they're really good. I mean, I'm not too shabby at this game, but Christ, some people are just assassinating Jedi. Bottom line, amazing multiplayer, but it's not really an asset for this game anymore. Alright, before I wrap up, I better touch on Altair and Desmond. Yep, they're both very playable in this game. Altair's flashbacks come up whenever you obtain one of the keys. I guess Altair put his memories in the keys. In fact, that's not a guess, he does say it. And I guess he knew the order in which they would be found because they go chronologically. Anyway, from a story standpoint, they're actually pretty interesting, like I said. For as little time as they have, they do a good job showing what happened after the events of Assassin's Creed 1. The gameplay isn't anything that spectacular. The first few missions are just sword fighting. They obviously kept the Revelations engine, so the fighting is a lot more fun than when we last wielded Altair's sword. But it's disappointing that there are no assassinations. And the last couple are just Altair walking around very slowly because he's so old and he can't do anything except fart. Actually, I somewhat enjoyed these, as I found myself really attached to the guy. Bottom line, I was glad these sections were included. And then there's Desmond sections. These do not belong in an Assassin's Creed game. They're in a first-person perspective where you basically walk along blocks that you have to lay out, and you're in this futuristic Tron limbo world, and it's just nothing like Assassin's Creed.
And I'm not gonna lie to you guys, this is probably the best single-player content in the game.
I mean, if I enjoyed these levels so much, I've gotta play Portal. I loved these parts. And it's nice that they're optional, because if this isn't your thing, do not worry about it. You need not touch them. Alright, my final thoughts on the game. It's awesome, but only because of the multiplayer and the Desmond sections. Without those, it's just a great game. It's at or even slightly below the quality of the first one. It's a decently length and very fun single player, but there's very little entertaining replay value. The set pieces are memorable, assassinations are still awesome, and Desmond's levels are pretty darn fun. But there was a certain depth to Assassin's Creed 2 and especially Brotherhood, and it just wasn't here. Do I recommend it? If you're a fan of the series, definitely play it, but I'm not sure if it's worth full price. The multiplayer is soon going to be useless, and when that happens, I doubt I'll put this game back in my PS3. It's absolutely worth playing, though, if you enjoyed Brotherhood like me. If you didn't care for Brotherhood, you might just want to skip this one. I enjoyed it, I'm glad I played it, and I had quite a bit of fun. Use what I've said to come to your own conclusions. It's a pretty darn good offering, but I can't help but feel really disappointed in it.